I'm Ruben Navarrette here with my friend Arnold Torres. Welcome to the Latino Paradox. Have you wondered why it is the Latinos have so much population numbers and they're such a big community but don't have enough political power? We have too, and we get together and discuss that issue every week here. Arnold, good to see you again. What I'd like to talk to you about today is this dynamic in Washington where you have so many Republicans on Capitol Hill in both houses are making mistakes and creating opportunities for Democrats that Democrats then fail to seize upon. And it's brought to mind by this new book that's out called Shattered about Hillary Clinton's failed presidential campaign, of all things, and very much about sort of the failures of the Clinton campaign machine to take advantage of weaknesses and opportunities that were presented to them by the Trump campaign. So this was very much an engrossing book. A lot of people are talking about it. What's your thought on what the Democratic Party seems to be doing wrong in failing to take advantage of the implosion of the Republican Party?
I think the party is, as it's always been, and this is the difficulty with political parties, their only objective is power. They want to attain the power. How they get there is almost secondary to getting there. And then once they get there, they want to maintain it. And they want to maintain it along ideological lines. And Americans are not thinking ideologically. They become ideological, and the choices they have in front of them are being driven by ideology. And that's exactly what we have seen with Republicans, and that's what we're seeing with the Democrats.
Right.
So rather than looking at real people problems, rather than looking and saying, hey, let's be problem solvers. Government should be a problem-solving institution and process.
Right.
That is not how they see it. It's always posturing. Because why? Because Republicans are always so bad. So all Democrats want to do is to always make the argument verbally, never substantively.
So much of what you say is true about Congress and only wanting to be reelected and wanting to get power. If you're a member of Congress, I think now in the House or Senate, you have one goal and one goal only. That's to take control of the House and Senate in 2018. That is the goal. And so when the issue comes along, be it immigration reform, healthcare reform, now tax reform, the issue of the day, you have this tension between, do you want solutions or do you want an issue? If you want solutions, you'll work across the aisle to come up with some way of bettering the tax code in ways that might even make Democrats happy, in ways that would impact everybody in a positive way, just like you could with healthcare reform, just like you could with immigration reform. You always have an opportunity to do the right thing and to make people's lives better. But instead, there is a value in your mind to having an issue for you to use instead of a solution, an issue to go back and bludgeon the other side with to help you do what? Win seats in 2018. So that's the real tension right there. And that's why we don't get anything done no matter what issue's on there, because we're on two different wavelengths. We think they're there to solve problems. They're there just to keep power and to get reelected.
Well, I'll give you an example. The Democrats in California would disagree with this conversation that we're having. Why? Well, they have the supermajority in both houses.
Right.
And they'll be the first ones to tell people like you and me, hey, we were able to get this sales tax and I forget the other tax, the car registration tax, in order to rebuild the roads and to improve the infrastructure. Right. And the only reason we were able to do that is because we had the Democratic majority. But the problem with that is that they didn't go and talk to the people about doing it. They just shoved it down people's throats. You know, they were able to get things done that people wanted done in their districts, but did the district really have a conversation with the people in their district about what the priorities were? No. And so this is a good example where the Democrats will say this is a great victory. But the question is, what level of victory is it really going to be?
Right.
And is it that kind of victory that you guys want to always have?
Here's the thing. I think if you're in a supermajority, God help you, because when you're in Sacramento, or if you're in Texas and you're in Austin, or if you're in Arizona and you're in Phoenix, it's easy for you to say that just counting seats, if you have a supermajority, you've won. You can declare victory and you'll be able to do things that you want to do. The people who say that in Sacramento, are stupid. They don't know what they're talking about because they've never lived outside of California in many cases. I spent 2 years living in Arizona, a red state, where everything was controlled by Republicans. And it was a disaster for Arizona, as evidenced by what happened in 2010 when they passed the immigration bill that ended up sinking the state and chasing away business and corporations boycotting and conferences were canceled. And Arizona emerged from that being thought of as a racist state. gee, how did that happen? Because hubris being what it is, when you have only people around you who agree with you and support you and reinforce what you're thinking, you're going to make stupid decisions. And likewise in Texas, the same thing happened there. As it even becomes a little bit more purple, it's still largely a red state. So back to California, people in Sacramento, those Democrats, God help them, because they keep making dumb mistakes. They keep passing bills and proposing things that sound right to them, make sense to them. But when it gets out into the light of day, people say, what are you thinking about? What were you thinking when you came forward with the idea, for instance, of using public tax dollars to pay for illegal immigrants to fight off their deportations?
Yeah, and this is there's always a backlash to these kinds of ideas. That's
if they're
absolutely
stupid,
right.
If they're stupid ideas, if they're good ideas, it's okay. But what I'm saying is stupid ideas are bred from super majorities, be they red or blue.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would agree with that. Those are good ideas, because remember, politics is about, it's not about policy. It's about power, both parties. And sometimes you're able to get them to do something very, very positive. The difficulty is that nowadays it's becoming more and more difficult, because there's always the yin and the yang. If the Republicans behave one way for one period of time, the Democrats come in and they feel that they're going to have to behave the same way because look how we were treated. It's a very childish and a very, very vacuum type of behavior. And it speaks to the reality that our problems continue to get worse as Latinos. Our problems continue to get worse regardless of who's in power. Right. I mean, the sanctuary cities is a good example. We use the term, we give the impression to our people that you're going to be protected. Right. You're not going to protect them against ICE if ICE wants to come after them.
That's a cruel lie. That is a cruel lie perpetuated by liberal Democrats in cities like San Francisco to give false hope to Latinos. The word sanctuary should be stricken from the record. From the public record. Do you know what sanctuary means? It's Latin for your bus is waiting. Get on the bus because they're deporting your ass. Okay? Yeah. That's what sanctuary means.
Yeah, I completely agree. But that's an example. The Democrats feel that this is their resistance. They want to stand up to Trump. You got to stand up to Trump. I completely agree with that mentality. But your objective and your whole agenda can't simply be about resistance.
I got it.
You've got to have ideas. You've got to have solutions. Whether people respond to them or not, that is almost secondary. You have to go down that road that says, hey, look at the path. Look at what we believe is an answer. And we don't do that. Democrats are not doing very much of that, if at all.
Right. Arnold, the Latino Paradox here, we have a framework we return to often. That is in every episode. We talk about the three big questions that Latinos should be asking and answering every day, no matter what the issue is on the table. Who are we? What do we want? And what are we doing wrong? So take me through those three in the context of this dynamic between the political parties.
Who we are is a desperate community. And I've said this before. We're a community that is absolutely looking for answers. Whether we're in a resistance-only mode or not, we're looking for a better life. What are we doing wrong? Well, we continue to side ideologically with positions that really aren't responses to our problems. In fact, we spend less time answering the questions, what do we really want? Because what we want, I want $1 million a day. I'm not going to get $1 million a day. We don't really ask ourselves precisely what is it that we want out of a certain situation. We go along with what's being told that it is that we want. So, I mean, to me, these are the fundamental difficulties that are constantly going along our way. What are we doing right? I think the resistance is good. That we're doing right. Resist. But it's also bad because that's all we seem to be stuck on. We're stuck on resisting only, and that's never going to make things better for our people.
So that's what we're doing wrong, in essence, is being stuck on resistance only. So I think what we are, my answer to the questions are, we are a community of people that want to make their lives better. We are yet undecided on whether government is the correct apparatus to do that. We have typically come to the idea more readily than other Americans that government can be a positive force and a force for good. But we have been disappointed time and again. What do we want? We want respect. We want a responsive set of representatives who listen to us and who give us what we want, not just what they think we want. And what are we doing wrong? As I've said before, we're being written off by one party, taken for granted by another. We don't shop around. We don't school ourselves on the issues. And we are continually a cheap date. Thank you for joining us. This is the Latino Paradox. It's been great being with Arnold Torres, my friend out there. Until next time.